Yo, 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 people and patrons of the night. It is your boy, the Horror Lander, your number one favorite horror hero. And today I got a fun little review for you. It's actually going to be me reviewing another Creepshow comic. That's right. For those of you who don't know, Creepshow is this huge anthology horror series out there. They got movies that a lot of people know about that were dropped back in the day. They got a TV show on Shudder that's pretty much the mascot series on Shudder's streaming service right now. And then you also got comics. They drop anthology horror comics pretty much every year. You get 5 issues and there's 2 drawn stories in each of them. So you essentially get 10 short anthology horror stories thanks to Creepshow on an annual basis, and they're one of the things that I'm very excited for. I always look forward to these comics dropping because I'm a huge fan of anthology horror. It's one of my favorite formats of horror media, and just seeing these fun little stories drop with some amazing artwork and really unique storylines is always a treat. So today I'm going to be talking about the first issue that dropped for volume 3, which luckily was an absolute banger, and I 100% gotta talk about it. I mean, this shit is so good, you would think that you were getting funnel cake fed to you by Victoria Justice. Okay, maybe I'm projecting when I say you, that's more so just for me. But listen, man, it's so damn good, bro. It is so damn good. So damn delicious. Muy bien. Muy bien.
Muy bien. Muy bien.
Every single one of you have got to check it out. And I'm going to show some of the comic artwork in here and give you a little bit of insight into the 2 stories without me giving too much away. Without further ado, let's get into this shit. Hit the intro. Oh, you see the light? Yo, you see the light glinting off my hat right there? That was majestic as fuck. Anyway, distractions aside, hit that intro.
Put your hands together, cover your eyes. Getting ready for a big surprise. Spirits in a bottle, ghosts in the machine, walking on water floating.
The first story we got is a pretty short one, and it's called Letter Trip. Letter Trip is about this mother who's got this very creative daughter. This young daughter loves painting. She seems like a prodigy. She's one of those children that stand out to the rest. But unfortunately, as she got older, an unfortunate sequence had happened where her daughter actually went missing. She didn't know what happened to her daughter. She could never find her again. And this was very depressing to her and her husband because obviously it's their daughter. They love her to death. So seeing her disappear out of nowhere, that's heartbreaking to any parent out there. But then as the story climbs along, eventually the mother gets a lead. She finds out that her daughter may actually be out there somewhere. And unfortunately, she may be out there to a cult. That's right. She might have been kidnapped by this religious, wacky cult leader and taken into his little secret society. So the mother decides, you know what, I'm going to go there, visit him, and see if I can get my daughter back, figure out what's happened to her all these years. And when she gets there, she finally sees her daughter, and her daughter is fully all hippied out. I mean, her daughter is like, hey man, it's all about the spirits, man. Smiles and peace, man. One of those type of situations. So the mother's trying to figure out a way to get the daughter back, and then she meets the crazy hippie Gandalf looking cult leader. And this dude is all about his mushrooms. This dude has been, revolutionized the moment that he took mushrooms. He ended up committing a murder and has now swayed all these women and people to follow him. And essentially, he tries to convert over the mother now, saying that, he knows the higher frequencies to life. He knows what more life has to offer, and claims all these things that people believe him, that he has these magical abilities. He's got this magical aura. And next thing you know, let's just say that since the mother ends up getting kidnapped by this dude, she gets put into an unfortunate sequence by him. And you find out some things. You find out some crazy things about the mother. There's a big plot twist involving her past, potentially her child's past. And there's a really good quote that, although I can't quote it word for word, it's the mother describing her life story and talking about how she's had all these secrets and emotions bundled inside of her and accumulate like water built up behind a great dam. And eventually all it takes is a little crack in that dam to eventually erupt into a giant tsunami. and you find out what that tsunami is, and it may or may not have some extraordinary capabilities behind it. So I'll leave it at that. So it's a pretty short story, pretty to the point, not that deep, but it felt like a strange take on Carrie. If any of you have seen the original Carrie movie out there, maybe that's giving a little bit too much away, but this felt like a spin on that. It felt like a different type of take on a Carrie situation, except this one was more gory, more violent towards the end, a lot more crazy in terms of the visuals. I'll show some of the trippy ass artwork that's in this comic. Really brilliant and helps out the story quite a bit in terms of the acid trip fever dream vibe that has it going on. But yeah, man, this story was like a fever dream of Carrie. And although it wasn't the greatest thing out there I've read, I'd probably give it like an 8 out of 10, which is for my short story standard. Any story that I read out there that's like super short, I rate it on a 0.5 scale instead of giving exact measurements. So yeah, 8 out of 10, just a good little short story. Nothing too crazy, but it definitely felt like a weird spin on Carrie. And although it was weird, I kind of liked it. It was weird in a good way. So yeah, I give it credit there. The next story is the fantastic one, the one that I really want to recommend this volume for. Now, I covered a Creepshow issue a while back, issue number 1 of volume 1, the very first Creepshow comic that ever dropped, the very first issue that ever dropped, that had the most fun horror story I ever read in my life, ever experienced in my life in it, called Shingo, this birthday party entertainer that was more than meets the eye. He had more going on to him than one might expect. Super fun, super on the nose, super crazy. That was one that I would never forget. And this one is like that too, but this one is more fleshed out, more well written. It's got, again, some really good creature feature, but it's more unique in this case. And honestly, this is probably one of the best short stories I ever read out of the Creepshow comics so far, and easily one of my favorite stories out there, period, in terms of horror. And that's called Scrimshaw. Scrimshaw is about this journalist who comes to this small Bayside town, kind of like your Portland, Maine kind of town vibe. You know, it's a big fishing scene, a big seaside scene. And he comes here because there's some real estate investors who want to kind of build some property and spruce up the town. And the reason why he got sent there as an agent is to collect some information about the town. Before these investors start buying up and building property, they want some information about this town because they could use that then to appeal to other investors. So essentially, this dude's just trying to recruit information to close some deals on some property. So he wants some good old, like, you know, local urban stories, urban legends, just stories of the town that could appeal to the buying factor of these investors. So he ends up going to this local tavern, this local bar, and he approaches this really raggedy looking dude. This dude straight up looks like Thor from God of War 4, except if Thor was like taking crack. This is crackhead Thor from God of War 4. Gotta crack Thor. This dude looks crazy. He looks wild, straight up wild man. And he approaches him and says, you know, how are you doing? I just want some local stories. I want to approach you. He finds out that this raggedy looking dude is a local fisherman. So he decides, all right, this guy probably has some good stories that I could go and present to the investors. And the fisherman agrees, but he's got this really shady vibe to him. He's got this vibe that you don't know if he's all the way trustworthy, if he's hiding something or not. But the journalist decides, you know what, let me just go ahead and record this conversation anyway. So he puts down the tape recorder and he lets this guy tell this local urban legend that he's hyping up. And the fisherman tells a story about one time when he was out by the ocean bayside and he was hunting lobster. And as he was checking his lobster traps, trying to see if he got any good catches for the day, he ended up finding something really strange. He found a severed hand. Yeah, let me repeat that to you. This dude was out hunting lobsters. He opened up a trap and he found a severed hand inside of one of the lobster traps. And that obviously set him off as something really weird. He thought there might have been some freak accident. Maybe there's some unsolved murder that happened. You know, they dumped a body out there at the ocean. But then he sees something really, really weird. And he sees that this severed hand, yeah, it's still got some rotten flesh on the palm, but the arm of it is essentially all bone, like something's like eaten off the flesh. And there's inscriptions. There's like this like manic looking hieroglyphic, just lines of like text and inscriptions that have been, you know, carved onto the bone of this severed arm. And he's like, what the fuck is this shit? And as he starts reading, he finds out it's actually a story. And it's a story of this sea navigator who got lost out at sea on his boat, and he had to fight the winds, he had to fight the current, he couldn't get out in time. And this whole story written on this, you know, carved into this, you know, broken bone, severed arm, is just telling a story about this guy who got lost out at sea. You know, Old Man in the Sea. If any of you had to read that book when you were a kid, it feels like some shit like that, but more dark in this case. And as the fisherman's reading it, he gets so hooked. There's this like uncanny trance that he gets put in as he's reading this story on this severed arm. And it abruptly ends. And, you know, he can't see like where the story ends. He can't find out, you know, what's happening involving the story in terms of how it concludes. And he's so engrossed in it. He wants to find out so bad. It's like a drug. It's like an addiction. Like for some reason, some unknown force is driving him to find out what happened. And all of a sudden, he hears this screeching, crazy sound out by like the sea. This like a metal scraping sound that's like piercing his ears. And he's like, what the fuck is that? And as he looks up from the severed arm and he looks out towards the ocean, he sees what made the severed arm and potentially what carved this severed arm. And I can't do it justice. I just have to show you a picture of this wild ass looking monster, this crazy fucking looking monster. I mean, look at this shit. This motherfucker, like, no cap, bro, this is one of the best creature designs I've ever seen. This thing is wild looking. Also, there's an animal out there. Sorry for that jump cut. I had to go get this trap. Your boy ain't taking no chances out here in the dark. This shit's scary. But yeah, this creature looks insane, man. It's one of the best monster designs I've ever seen. It looks flat out wild. And he finds out that this creature is the one that potentially killed this navigator, killed this man, and is using his body, his severed limbs, in order to write out his entire story. And this thing just looks like some eldritch horror, man. This is like some unknown sea god. This thing from the depths and the abyss of the blue, man. It's crazy. And he finds out that this creature may or may not have some capability to influence. From what it seems, it might be influencing this guy to try to find out what happened involving this story. And he becomes obsessed. He becomes addicted to this creature and finding out what happened. So let's just say he may or may not try to go fishing for it and try to get a chance to find out more about the story of the navigator. And things take a twist for the journalist, for the guy, and you find out how that unfolds. And it's pretty brutal, pretty gory, pretty scary, but it's brilliant, man. It's fantastic. And let's just say, even though some things go awry, the monster always wins. Never forget that. Yeah, this one is fantastic, man. I'd give this one a 10 out of 10. The monster design was amazing. How the story unfolded was fantastic. I absolutely love this, man. Again, like the title of the video, this one feels like funnel cake fed to me by Victoria Justice.
Oh my damn, oh my goodness, they're going ham.
It's just brilliant. It just hits all the right spots. It looks good, just like Victoria Justice does. I mean, the comic art and Victoria Justice are both just muy bien. Fantastic. The creature design is awesome. It's weird in that dope and creative way. Again, looking like Davy Jones, sleep paralysis demon. Flying Dutchman ain't got shit on this, man. This is the flying ditch, man. You gotta ditch as soon as you see this motherfucker. Deuces. And yeah, man, just the gore in this story, the craziness of the story, the addiction allegory of being entranced and addicted to finding out this story. I mean, again, it's talking about a wild, crazy tale inside of a wild and crazy story that you're reading. It's pretty wild. I said wild a lot, but it plays out. You saw the artwork. You heard what I talked about. It plays out. And yeah, man, this is a brilliant story. I've never read anything like this. The artwork does it justice. The way the story folds is so intense. This one is a much more detailed and in-depth story than a lot of the other Creepshow comic stories you get out there. And I would 100% recommend you start picking up these Creepshow comics and reading them, man. Give them a read. Check them out. Enjoy the artwork. Enjoy the wild, crazy zaniness of this. Enjoy the wild, crazy, batshit stuff that happens in these Creepshow stories, because these comics are great, man. You don't get horror stories like this. And if you get the chance to read this, pick it up and enjoy it, you're going to remember it. These are memorable tales. And I know a lot of people out there love that in-depth, mind-fuckery type of horror, especially nowadays. People like more realistic stuff. But I've always loved Creature Feature because it has so much creativity behind it. There's so much wild stuff you can do. Yeah, realistic stuff is scary. Yeah, mind-fuckery stuff makes you think. But sometimes you just need a good old schlocky, crazy tale. And Creepshow will do that for you. That's all I got for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, there's a free way to support me and help grow the Horrorlander empire of Broke Vought Studios, aka Brought Studios. And that's that you hit the subscribe button down there, you hit the like button down there, and you comment down below. Have you read any Creepshow comics? What do you think about them? Are you excited? Are you excited to check them out? And yeah, feel free to let me know. If you're a Creepshow fan out there, what other Creepshow content do you want me to cover? Is there any other anthology horror stuff or media that you want me to cover? And that's all I got for today. I'm about to head out before any of these Creature Feature action out here in my backyard gets me, because let's just say these raccoons might start acting up. And I don't know if you guys have read the Creepshow story Hair, but that dealt with the raccoon, and I'm just gonna show the visual there. Yeah, I'm not dealing with no shit like this, especially under this decrepit patio that's in front of me. Deuces, y'all.
Who can